Damas y caballeros, ladies and gentlemen, I am Jesus Ricardo Rodriguez, and you are listening to the Unsanctioned Podcast!
Gotta bring the city back, let them know we still here, never gonna stop. Keep rolling like a wheelchair, can't be shook. You know the wolf smell fair, throw him in the trunk, turn your man to a straight stare. No tire, just money.
Welcome
so
to another
fire.
edition of the Unsanctioned Podcast. I'm Luis Vasquez. You can find me on Twitter at Luis Vasquez617.
This is your boy Jay Holland. You can find me across social media at JOCity, JAYOCITY, unless it's on Facebook at that 781 at the end.
And today, host-wise, it's a two-man party.
Julio June and the Eagle went on vacation, man.
There's no cuckooing today.
None of that. We can't even do it when he's not in the building.
You can't even hit that note today, right?
Nah, I
Or
can't do it.
Are you
He has to be in the building.
trying to hold back? Or
He has to, I guess we can
is
do.
it gonna come?
We could do one. We can't do the note though.
And that's a shout out to Julio June, one of our
Exactly.
co-hosts who is away right now on vacation, but the Unsanctioned Podcast never sleeps and never stops. I'd like to give a quick shout out to my son, little Luis. He is the man, avid supporter of the Unsanctioned Podcast. He even took in Clash of Champions with us, Jay.
And he even left with a chair.
Or two.
Or three.
Or three. Maybe four.
Maybe four. I don't know.
We lucked out on that. Shout out to little Luis. I love you, man.
Yeah,
Thank you
man.
for listening, all right?
You know what I mean? Shout out to my goddaughter, Aaliyah Jones. Yeah, she's definitely was in the building at Clash of Champions. She was able to walk away with a chair. She's definitely into like the women's side of the wrestling and Total Divas and everything. So, I told her I would give her a shout out and shout
Awesome.
out to her, man.
Got a chance to meet her. She was great.
Exactly. It's crazy.
You know what the Unsanctioned Podcast is going to be. I'd also love to give a quick shout out to FightBoothPW.com, home of the Unsanctioned Podcast. Thank you to Dave Reno, also chief editor and owner of the site.
Oh, you
They
dropping the
also
big
have-
man's name.
I have to, man. He makes it all happen. He helps us to plug in these gaps and to get it out to the people. He's got a big hand in this. Thank you, Dave. FightBoothPW.com. And they also cover MMA. We may have some MMA people listening today. I'll let you introduce that guest. As we typically do, I always throw it to Jay. He's the hype man out here and the booker man. So thank you, FightBoothPW.com. Thank you, FightBooth.com for MMA.
Yep.
And are we done with the thank yous?
I think we are.
Who do we have with us today on the Unsanctioned Podcast, baby?
We have UFC Hall of Famer, the first and only UFC Grand Champion. This man debuted in UFC 4 and then ended up winning UFC 5. And people remember him from his classic matchup in UFC 6 versus Ken Shamrock. And UFC 9, which wasn't so well, but he did avenge that loss. We have none other than Dan the Beast Severn.
Dan Severn, the original beast, and we'll get into that.
Oh, he's been instrumental in a lot, and it's crazy.
You'll
man.
see what we mean by that, by being the original beast.
The original.
Here on the
know.
Unsanctioned Podcast.
You already know, man. This is the Unsanctioned Podcast. We are now being sanctioned over the airwaves. Let's get it.
Dan Severn is on the Unsanctioned Podcast. We'll be welcoming him in a minute here.
You got a little tongue tied. You
Little
scared already?
tongue-tied. I'm looking at all my notes and times and the board and all that.
You scared? Just say you're scared.
Okay, I'm scared.
Just a minute.
I'm scared. I don't want him to reach through the phone and beat my ass for a dumb question. All right, I got it off my chest.
I'm
Is
just
that all right?
saying, like, I remember watching his UFC debut in UFC 4, and I had to been around, I want to say like 8 or 9.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was the first time I seen a German suplex done outside of a wrestling ring. It was in the
Right.
octagon, which was my first time seeing it. And when I tell you he destroyed the field, he ended up losing in the finals to Royce Gracie. But when I tell you he destroyed the field, bro, like, and then see him in WWE, it's crazy.
But
And
the German suplex thing, seeing that outside of wrestling, did you mark out or were you in shock?
I was a little bit of both. Because I was like, I know that move. I didn't know the guys fighting. I didn't know anything about it. I was just like, I know what the hell I just seen. That's a German suplex. And he, like, it was bad. Like, he gave it to the guy a few times. The second one, I would honestly say, like, the guy was, like, kind of, like, split open.
So it does some real damage.
It appeared like and maybe he could talk on it, but it appeared like his knee, like he German suplexed the guy so hard that the guy's knee went into his forehead. Like, it's crazy. But yeah, man, just to see that and this, I remember him in WWE coming to the ring with all the belts, man. Like, that to me, that was never before seen.
Hearing this music hit, that's all I saw in my head. That's what I could see. You know I'm a belt guy, and you know I'm gonna have to ask him about it. Coming out with all those belts, that man, what?
Like,
how dope did that look?
That was
because no one was doing that. No one did that. No one had that.
No one really does it till this day.
No,
you know
no,
I mean? Like,
no one does
in WWE of all places.
Exactly.
Like,
people do it all the time in video games.
Yeah,
it's crazy. They try to get all the titles on one guy. That's the thing. So if you look up it on YouTube and all that, people really try to do that, but we don't see it in real life.
Yeah,
but Dan was that
He
real life guy.
had so many titles that Jim Cornette had to carry a couple titles for him, man. Yeah. Like, that's just clout. Crazy. He even bought the NWA World Heavyweight title on WWE television. Like, that alone, like,
yeah.
I want to know how he was able to do that. You know what I mean?
He seems like a man who makes his own rules, his own stipulations.
And just lives by it, man.
That's it.
You already know, man. Flow. Without further ado, let's get into it. We have Dan, the Beast Severn, on the line. How's it going, Mr. Severn?
Luis and Jay, I'm doing fantastic. You know, here I am, just outside of Phoenix, Arizona, wearing T-shirts and shorts.
A guy who used to whoop so much ass is just chilling in the sun in shorts, just low key. I love it.
You know what it is?
Actually, you guys, if you guys actually knew me more and saw me through my career, yeah, I am definitely a contradiction of terms. I mean, it's you know, you guys talk a little bit about, you talk about the professional wrestling, you talk a little bit about the mixed martial arts. Professional wrestling type arenas, but you gotta realize my true start and everything was my amateur wrestling career, and that started all the way back into 1969. Now think about them timetables. That's when I started, and I was in 7th grade when I started in 1969. They did not have the youth programs like they have today, where you could start wrestling at age 4. Now, I don't believe in competition for a 4-year-old because they don't even know how to share yet, but that's just some over-exuberant fathers that are trying to live vicariously through their children. But
yeah.
And I didn't do that, and I would not do that to my own kids. I let them start up in the junior high programs when it was offered through the schools. That's when they started their own programs.
Now, Mr. Severn, like, as you mentioned, your wrestling background in general. Like, I remember watching, early on, and I didn't really know UFC too well back then. I watched UFC 1 through 9, and I remember you on UFC 6, and then I remember UFC 9, both versus Ken Shamrock. UFC 6.
UFC number 4 was my very first one ever, and guys, I did not even know it existed until I think their second one, and it wasn't because. It was because someone actually had to tell me about it. Because unlike today, where you can actually watch a pay-per-view right from your cell phone, the cell phone was nowhere near as advanced back in that 1994 time period. Because I always tell people I started my two professions is professional wrestling and my mixed martial arts or cage fighting career. I lived through both the NHP period and then the MMA period. MMA that phase only came about sometime around 2005, 2006 is when that phrase was actually coined, when it was civilized with about 47 to 49 rules as opposed to the 2 rules that were utilized in the no-holds-barred era.
Yeah, I remember back then, like, there weren't too many rules in the original UFC.
Just the two. No biting, no eye gouging. That was it. No weight classes, no time periods. It was, and it was what people, if you actually showed both products side by side, I guarantee you more people would be watching the old product just because of the novelty of David slaying Goliath, of seeing someone standing there with a judo gi on or jiu-jitsu gi on, and then taking on someone that's wearing one boxing glove on his hand or something like that. There was so many. It was like the wild, wild west at that point in time because there were so many things that you could do that now, no, you can't do. As I said, the big difference is 2 rules back then, and fast forward to today, it's either 47 or 49 rules.
Now, I remember my first introduction into you. Like, I'm a big wrestling guy, Luis as well. But my first introduction into you was watching UFC 4. My father used to have the VHS tapes, and he would bring them home. And I remember you had the black trunks, and you was more of a grappler. And what I remember is you got a hold of this gentleman, and I think that was the first time I seen a German suplex outside of a WWE ring. And I was like, who is this guy? And like, you went in so quiet, didn't crack a smile. Your face was just very stoic. You went in and handled business, and then all of a sudden, like, you would just turn into, I guess, pun intended, the beast. Tell me, just tell me about your psyche going into it, because I remember UFC 4. You know, you was the runner-up in that tournament, and then of course in UFC 5 back in '95, you ended up winning it. But just tell me about your mindset going into it, knowing that there's only 2 rules, and sometimes depending on where you guys would fight at, they would have their own. Like some places would be like no striking and things of that nature. Tell me like your mindset and how you would just approach those tournaments back then.
Well, when I first knew about it was taking place, I've always lived a rather busy schedule. First off, I did not tell a single family member what I was doing, and it was usually pretty easy to hide the training aspect because I only trained for 5 days. So that's the only amount of time I had. I had 5 days, an hour and a half a day that I would travel from Coldwater, Michigan, over to Lima, Ohio, and I was training at Al Snow's Body Slammers gym. So I would have Al Snow and 2 other professional wrestling proteges, and they had 1 old pair of boxer gloves between the 3 of them. So they would simply one would go for a while, then they'd swap out, then next guy, and they would try to kick and punch and do whatever submissions that they knew how to do. And all I did was stay either out of range, close the distance quickly. I just used my amateur wrestling ability, clinch them, throw them down, take them down, slap on amateur wrestling moves. Now, amateur wrestling moves are principles of leverage, but another word for leverage is pain. It's only because you're inducing legalized pain that you're able to turn a wrestler over onto his back and then pin them. But now I can simply turn wrestling moves illegal. So that's all I was doing with these guys, and I made them scream or squawk, and that was my training camp. I did not train a single legitimate strike. I did not train a single legitimate strike or submission technique. When I showed up to UFC 4, here they're trying to get the bio information, so they want to know where you're from, what your height, what your weight is. Even though there's no weight classified that, they still want to let people know something about you. And then I was asked the question, what is your discipline? I'd never been asked that question before. I said, I looked at first, I go, well, I'm an American wrestler. And they had never heard that response before. And they kind of looked at me and I go, what exactly does that do? And I said, well, you might want to watch. I'm simply making this up as I go anyway. And it was the truth because, I've never, it's as ironic as this may sound, I have never been in a street fight in my entire life. I have used my intelligence not to get into those type of situations, or I know where my surroundings are, not to put myself into those kind of settings. Ironically, I was probably closer in the past 20-some years of my life getting into almost a real fight as opposed to the previous 30-some odd years, because in the beginning when I was doing appearances at sports bars, I did them later in the evening. Well, I learned don't do them later in the evening because some of the patrons may have partaken one too many barley pops, and now the beer muscles are coming through, and now they're like, oh, I thought you'd be bigger. Well, you don't look so tall, Paul. Well, you're right like a girl. Why? Because it's legible. Well, I go, you might find this hard to believe, but I actually have a teaching degree, so I actually can spell and I can actually write. Wow. So on a couple of occasions, I actually pulled out one of my business cards, and I wrote a phone number, and I slid it over to the table to one of the gentlemen that was kind of, giving me a hard time. And they're like, well, what's this? I go, well, that's the phone number. Because if this goes down here and now, Mr. Barley Pops, there are no rules. There is no referee.
Right. And
I will finish with you when I'm good and ready. I said, now, do you want to take that chance? I said, otherwise, just enjoy your evening and move along.
I could just see you doing that, like, and so calm too, like. Well,
no, I've always wanted. To me, it's like it's those that start to. It's never at the bar because I've witnessed it a lot of times. Because it could be like I coach at Arizona State, I coach at Michigan State, and I went out with my wrestlers at different times to kind of watch over my little herd ne'er-do-wells, because I know them, that they're going to get out there and they'll be doing some stupid things at different times. And to me, it's like, I don't mind if they go get in a fight. If it's one-on-one, that's fine. I just don't like it when 2 or 3 people want to jump in on the one. I go, no, if you're going to fight, and it's only between you and someone else, all right, I'll stand back and I'll watch. Just make sure no one else is going to, go in there and do a river dance on your head when you're down and taking care of business. To me, it's like, let's keep a little bit of honor. And if these 2 guys have a problem, let them go out there and thump each other up a little bit and get it out of their systems. I'm okay with that.
You've indicated twice already that you didn't live the character pretty much. You aren't who you were on television or in the ring or in the octagon. How have you maintained living such a peaceful life out of competition?
It's like Bruce Banner and the Hulk.
Because you would think there's some dumbasses out there on the street who would just want to challenge you for fun and heckle you, at least.
Well, at the same token, I said it's only come close on a couple altercations.
Yeah.
When I was doing security guard type of jobs, it's probably even closer yet. I'll say younger in my life. When I was at Arizona State University here, I'm a student athlete there, and they were always hiring. They being different concerts. When the concerts were coming to the Arizona State University, they hired a lot of big football players. Well, here I'm one of the upper weights. They also would hire a lot of the upper weights on the recipe. They're not going to hire the 118-pounder, but here I am. I'm on the 198-pounder, 190-pounder, but that's only if and when I weigh 180 pounds. Most of the time, I'm sitting around 2 1/4 or something like that. So I'm good size, something like that. So they always hired the other 190-pounders, 177-pounders, and even the heavyweights. And we would always be there as well. But we were always, I'd say, the football players got into fights all the time.
Now, seeing that you were, I guess you could say, trained in the realm of sports entertainment / professional wrestling via Al Snow, tell me about that dynamic. Like, how are you and Al today? Are you guys still close friends? And just tell me how he was as a trainer.
Al Snow's just an absolute great guy, a very comical guy. Easy to get along with. If I ever had a problem with Al, I would say it had to be something with that person, because Al is so easy to get along with. I mean, I realize I've known Al since 1992, so that's a lot of years.
Yep.
And a lot of people realize he was my first corner person. He was in my corner in UFC number 4.
I've seen it. He had no mustache, no beard.
So there was, there was, kind of, like I said, there's a lot that Al did not know about. That Noah was part Arab, but he was there. Like I said, he was there for the 5 days, and that was it. Literally, my training camp was so comical because they didn't want to go in the ring there with me, because they were just like, they'd be throwing the gloves at each other. You go in there. No, it's not. They're like, you go in there, because I just you realize I'm driving 2.5 hours one way, so I got 5 hours invested in travel just for an 1.5-hour workout. And I'm not working out inside the cage, because there was only one cage that was owned, and that was owned by the UFC. So I'm actually inside of the only confined area that we could come up with was a professional wrestling ring. And as I tell people that I set the world on fire with amateur wrestling technique, but the sheer fact, because you mentioned it already, the fact that in my very first match ever, I pull off back-to-back German suplexes, which in the amateur wrestling world is simply known as the belly-to-back suplex. So, but the professionals world just loved me for pulling off a couple of those back-to-back. And I mean, the guy hit so hard. He hit so hard the second time, he folded on up. His own knee struck himself in the forehead, and he split his own forehead open. Now that's pretty sudden impact there.
Yeah, like I said, I seen that, and I was just like, I looked at my father. I was like, I don't know what you brought into this house, but I like it.
Well, again, as I said, I tell people they really any throwing strikes. My first couple matches, I didn't throw a single strike, and not until the third match did I even throw anything, and even then it was nothing straight down. And it was, at that time, I had been an amateur wrestler for 26 years. 26 years of rules and regulations. I tell people that I was more torn with my conscience than I ever was with an opponent. Because even if you go back to see it and watch how I strike, I never threw anything straight down. It's like, peripherals, kind of like, motivate a little bit to maybe tap out. Or maybe I'll bump a little bit on this side. There's nothing straight down. Now, moving forward, I had no problem just dropping a hammer fist dead center of the forehead. Boom.
When you went to, NWA, everyone knows, well, I hope everyone knows that, your first of your title reigns lasted 4 years as NWA heavyweight champion, which is remarkable in its own right, especially during that time in wrestling, because it's very, very rare that people hold titles longer than a year, let alone a few months. But you were able to hold them for 4 years. So tell us about just your time in NWA. You've crossed paths with a lot of guys. You tagged with Sabu, who a lot of people know from ECW. Tell us about that dynamic and what brought you to NWA.
Well, the person who brought me first to NWA was Dennis Carluzzo. I believe it was his idea. Dennis is no longer around. He was a promoter out of the state of New Jersey.
Yep.
And even then, the NWA was almost non-existent. I think there's only 3 promoters that were left at that point in time, is what I was told. But by the time that I relinquished the belt, like I said, just over 4 years later, I was working for 40-some-odd different promoters inside the United States alone. On top of, I went to several different countries, that the belt had not been seen in, I think, like 16 years or something like that. So I did. I am a throwback from days gone by. The reality is, I should have probably been wrestling professionally. I should have been wrestling, through the probably 50s, 60s, and things of that nature, right back in the days of Lou Thesz and Bruno Sammartino, things of that nature, just because of, I am that throwback from days gone by, a champion of legitimate ability. Back to the carnival days where, the announcer would be standing right alongside the champion and then make the announcement that any man, woman, or child that can last 5 minutes with the champ is going to get $10,000. That was a shoot. That was legit. Yeah. Knowing that whatever poor slob that climbed through those ropes, the champ was going to put down hard and fast. So now when Billy Bob goes back up in the crowd, bloody, battered, and bruised, the crowd looks at it like, what's got to be legit? Look what just happened to one of our own. That was the premise that professional wrestling was built on. Now, you can't do that nowadays because of all the DC lawsuits, but that's the premise of how professional wrestling was founded, and it was easy to work matches. Now, granted, continue to keep fast forwarding, it became a little bit more and more ridiculous as to what professional wrestling kind of turned into.
Now, your first championship reign, you defeated Chris Candido, who a lot of people do remember, from ECW, and some may remember from his time in WWF as part of the Bonnie Donnas. Just tell us about, the relationship, if any, there, and just some of your, I guess you could say, people who helped you along the way when you was in NWA.
Well, I'd say that Dennis Carluzzo was probably one of the most instrumental. I think that from his hands it changed to, I think, Howard Brody was the president for a little bit of a time frame. Howard traveled with me to Japan a few times. Again, where the belt was really revered a great deal. I'm trying to think of who else. I just know that there was a lot of things that took place on phone calls or behind closed doors, and some of these meetings that I were not invited to. To give you an idea that even when I had the belt was taken off of me, I realized how the belt actually got taken off in the first place was the NWA somehow struck a deal with TNA.
Oh.
And TNA was running these Wednesday night pay-per-views. And I used to always keep my schedule right up on my website. And their ticket sales were really lackluster coming out of the blocks there. So all of a sudden, TNA wants to do this heavyweight title defense. And they call me, and I go, well, I can't. I said, I already have a commitment. I go, you see, it's on my website. I'm going to be in Texas, and I'm going to be inside of a cage doing an MMA match. Well, it's actually still known as No Holds Barred. It's going to be doing a No Holds Barred match that night. And they're just they're kind of pressure. I go, well, you pressure me all you want. I go, I already have a commitment. I will fulfill my commitment. So basically, they end up stripping me of the belt. Now that's one of those things that if I could go back and relive time, that would be one of those points where I'd like to go back and relive time and to simply say, because all I did was I simply just turned the belt over. I should, in retrospect, I should have said, you send whatever contenders you want to send to see if they can take the belt off of me.
Yeah. Now it's
and I would have turned the world of fantasy into the world of reality at that point. But that's where I just if you guys don't want to utilize me properly, then screw you guys. I'll move on. But at the same token, on a couple of different occasions, here I am just being part of a card that's supposed to be taking place in Japan. Here, as I'm flying over, I didn't know all this was taking place, but I'm just supposed to be doing a tag team match, and of course, to be flying over, by the time I land, I realized I'm no longer in a tag match. I'm in a singles match. I'm in a championship match with Hashimoto, because Hashimoto was unwilling to drop the strap to any of the contenders at the time, because they were not worthy. In his opinion, they were not worthy.
Yeah, so I remember seeing that, and of course, TNA was founded by Jeff and Jerry Jarrett, and then they wanted to use the NWA heavyweight title, and Hashimoto was just like, until someone is proven, I will not drop this title to them. And I guess that's where you came into the picture, because he respected you from your time in Japan through your mixed martial arts career and your professional wrestling career. And then, I remember TNA stripping you of the title, which then awarded that to Ken Shamrock. It's funny how you and Ken Shamrock keep intertwining throughout, like, your respective careers. Like, we had Ken featured on here a few episodes back, and it's just weird, like, seeing you guys from UFC 6 and then UFC 9, which, we all know UFC 9. The match was, it's highly criticized, but then if you look at it from a different spectrum, like, to me, it takes a lot of principle and just being able to stick to the plan that you had in mind.
Oh, I have no problem. It's like people. Like I look at, you can always have armchair quarterbacks. I always look at it this way: climb in the cage with me, and have Big John say, "Let's get it on." I go, as I start to move towards you, I will start to see a little yellow puddle form at most people's feet, because that's how scared they are. To me, I got no problem. You realize, even at my age now, I would have no problem with probably most people. I'm still on the mats. People, and they just think, well, because I was. People don't realize how old I was when I started. Even I was WWF's, now known as WWE, but I was WWF's oldest rookie ever at 48 years of age. But Vince didn't know how old I was, because all my negotiations were with Jim Ross. And even Jim did not really know what my age was until the contracts are signed, stuff like that, because they were trying to get both Ken and I in there roughly around the same time. But Ken went to work almost a year before me, because he just simply said, for X amount of dollars, I'm yours. Well, my whole thing was, I was not going to be exclusive to them, because I knew how old I was. And I'm not about to put all my eggs into one basket for 2 years, and then all of a sudden they don't like the color of my hair, and then now I have to go find another career after 2 years. No. But they basically we came to terms, and they're all my terms. And as I'm in the office with Vince and Jim and a couple others at that point in time, shaking their hands, slapping on the back, all this, that. So a couple of different timetables will turn around there, down, and it's like says out of the blue. He goes, well, how old are you? And I go, 48. And he looks at Jim Ross and goes, Jim, he says, who's our oldest rookie ever? And Jim points right at me and goes, Dan. But I did not look my age, nor did I act my age. Even now, I'm heading towards 60. I don't look like a 60-year-old guy. I don't act like a 60-year-old guy. Trust me, and I'm around a lot of guys who are, probably 10 to 20 years younger than me. They're not doing too well in age and process either. People wonder wherever I found my little fountain of youth. I go, well, it's called, I've got good genes to start off with, but I've put a lot of time into how I take care of myself and stuff like that as well.
As you mentioned, like when you first went to WWE, I remember I was watching a podcast, and I remember Jim Cornette explaining. He was just like, you know, when he found out you was coming to the company, he wrote down a list of things that you would excel at and things that wouldn't be great for you. And then the WWE actually had him as your corner man. Tell us about that dynamic, first coming through the curtains of a WWE show, and then, you know, especially having all those belts. Like, did you come up with that? Like, I'm gonna come down to the ring with all these championship belts, or
no? It was actually Jim Cornette's idea. I mean, you know, I think Jim probably had some of the best ideas. He wanted me to come out there with almost a wheelbarrow full of belts, and as it was, he's carrying out two belts. He's being a mouthpiece there for me. I'm carrying out two belts, and basically, I'm wearing the same type of wardrobe that I wore in my Ultimate Fighting Championship days. You know, nothing really changed about it. And just went out there, and they really loved the fact when I was putting the mouthpiece in just before climbing into the cage, watering it down, and you know, and then and just climbing in and just taking care of business. Yeah, but the ironic part was I finally ended up meeting Goldberg a couple years later, and that was before Goldberg was Goldberg or was involved with WCW or anything like that in that nature. And I just happened to be in Los Angeles with a couple other business people. Goldberg happened to be at this luncheon there as well, so there's probably 5-6 of us sitting around the table, and we're getting to know each other. So like this, well, probably to the lunch right there, he reached over and nudged me on the shoulder. He goes, "Thanks." I go, "For what?" He goes, "See this dude?" He says, "I was you." I go, "What?" He says, "I watched your early UFC type phase." He says, "I saw the crazy look that you had, stuff like this, the way that you came out to the cage or something like that." He goes, "I was imitating you." I go, "Well, you did a better job of me than I did of myself." You know, but I just thought that was really great that he would admit something like that to me. And ironically, it happened to be one of my amateur wrestling buddies who taught him basically the spear. The spear is nothing but a double leg takedown. And, you know, basically one of my amateur wrestling buddies actually even taught him the spear. And it's kind of like, you know, just go to show you just, you know, the world, you know, sometimes it's a lot smaller place than what you'll ever think it is. Because I've bumped into people left and right, you know, and just know them from other aspects of our careers. Wow.
Dan Severn is the godfather. I guess the spawn, put it like this, Goldberg is the spawn of Dan Severn. That's the best way to put it, man. Luis, this is crazy.
Well, it was great. It was great then to see him do his thing with Brock Lesnar and stuff like that. The fact that especially he got such a big pop off of it all.
Yeah. Did you pay attention to any of that? Did you see any Goldberg versus Brock Lesnar in this latest run?
No, I did not see any of it, you know, but I was aware of all of it. You just got to realize I just don't watch much television, period. I mean, in the last, probably the last 30 years of my life, I could say I've watched a token movie here, I'll watch something there, but I just don't watch much television. It just, you know, I'll do it later in life when I have nothing better to do.
Well, Brock Lesnar is also one of those MMA guys who crossed over. What are your thoughts on him and his ability to do it and to go back and forth?
We got to give this man credit because a lot of people don't realize Dan Severn was the first person to do that as far as compete in WWE at the same time while still fighting for UFC. A lot of people didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Well, that's what a lot of people realize. That, well, first off, I told you earlier that I was non-exclusive to the WWE.
Mm.
As far as I know, I am still the only person to ever be non-exclusive. Same way as I was non-exclusive to the NWA, non-exclusive to the UFC. I can work for anybody and everybody. Vince did not really realize what type of person he had to be. I even told myself, I said, you know, to me, it's like I'm from the era that your word and a handshake should mean more than what a piece of paper means.
Yeah,
I said, a piece of paper. I look at a piece of paper for people you don't trust.
That's a good way to put it.
That's sad, but that's the world we live in nowadays. Because now, I basically everything I do almost have to have some type of contract to it anymore. I like to trust people, but it has burned me a few times.
So I asked you about Brock because in the past you've been a little critical about his PED usage and all those allegations. Have you changed your view on that? What do you think of him today?
I mean, to me, it's everybody carves out their own life for themselves, and do I think that he has used chemicals in the past? Oh, without a shadow of a doubt. I know it's natural, and I know it's not natural. I mean, if you wanted to see a real freak, I was a freak as I was already, but you got to realize what you guys saw was an aging freak. So I always tell people that I was at the utopia of my athletic career from 1984 to 1986 in my amateur wrestling. I could destroy anything that walked onto the mat, including King Kong, and he would never stood a chance. But by the time I jumped into my UFC career, that's a decade later.
You're one of the prominent guys who brought wrestling as a background to the forefront. A lot of people didn't really respect it in the mixed martial arts world.
That is one of the things I'm probably proudest of, is the fact that I have brought recognition to wrestlers, and I'm also the guy that's been given credit for unleashing the hordes of wrestlers that now invade mixed martial arts. And if you look at the worldwide standings per weight class, 8 or 9 out of the top 10 guys per weight class, what are their original origins? They're wrestlers. Not just any old wrestler, but a high-level wrestler, because with a high-level wrestler comes a work ethic and a mindset equal to none. Even when I was working and would become the guy that hires the players, I would hire more wrestlers, because I know how hard they work. And even the place that I worked at, and then I was hiring these guys, the owners would be looking at me like, where do you find these guys? Because these guys are like machines. They work, what great work ethic they have, and stuff like that.
What do you think of going from MMA to pro wrestling? And has anyone called you to see what your advice would be?
Well, no, it's I see it going both ways. You've had people that have tried going from professional wrestling to MMA, and then the guys are going from MMA to professional. So it's a two-way street. And then let's face it, you can do one a whole lot longer than you can do the other. Your mixed martial arts career is only going to be so long, because you're not going to get that kind of shelf life. I actually look at that. Anyone that gets on top, it'll be 5 year or less. Matter of fact, I look at probably a 4 year or less type of a career that they will have, realistically. Only because the overall level of competition at your weight class has risen so significantly that you just can't take that amount of punishment and still be able to walk away and live any type of a life afterwards without your life being compromised, just through different types of problems you're going to have.
Now, Dan, you worked with Owen Hart in WWE. I mean, you actually trained him for his Lions Den match, and then you threw in the towel on him, which led to a short-term program between you guys, in which led to a kayfabe injury of you on television. Tell us the dynamic of working with Owen, and how you guys interacted.
Owen was he was just a character, to say the least. Again, I've always been an observer of people, so a lot of times I just sit back there and I just kind of watch the different type of theatrics that kind of unfold there before me. And you could, Owen was one of those kind of people. He liked to pull pranks, and when he used to put on that blue blazer outfit, you could just see the mischievous child come out at him. He just couldn't wait to go and do something. It was great when they were doing the swerve to all the smart marks. They're thinking of who they knew it was, and then all of a sudden they're putting on everybody and their brother. They're putting on Coco Beware. They're putting on, like I said, big guys, little guys, midgets, and the whole 9 yards. And just to kind of throw it after that was actually a very fun period of time. When I first got to know Owen, he even made the comment to me. He said, "Dan, you won't remember me." He said, "I remember when you came to Canada on a couple of different occasions and wrestled in the World Cup was held up in Toronto." And he said, "You've been there watching me wrestle." So to me, to be at the Hart family residence, to sit upstairs in the living room with Stu Hart, and to listen to him regale stories and stuff like that, that was really a cool thing to do. And then be the special referee for Owens and Ken's match when they're doing their Lions Den match, and then again in Madison Square Garden when they did their Lions Den match. So.
Wow, did Owen ever pull any pranks on you? I could just see you being so serious.
Gotta ask about the pranks.
Like we always heard stories about how Owen pranked him, and Davey Boy would prank other people. So I want to know, did Owen ever catch you at one time?
Well, no, I mean, he was, there'd just be some comical, like one-liners and something like that we'd be saying in a match or something like that. But, I think that, I don't think it really ever came about. I think it would have eventually, had both our careers lasted longer in the WWE. But I was only there on a limited contract, so the average wrestler was working 187 dates. And I basically negotiated 60.
Louis, he was Brock Lesnar before Brock.
He was Brock before Brock, absolutely.
Oh, yeah. I was doing 60. I was on the road. I would be on the road 20-some odd days a month easily because, again, I'm doing matches for NWA. I'm doing stuff for WWE. And then, I'm working for anybody else that I'm open on top of doing a cage fight. I'm doing the amateur wrestling clinics. I'm working with law enforcement. There'd be some mornings as I'm waking up and rubbing my eyes. I'm looking around and thinking, okay, where am I at, and what is my function today? And I literally would have to look at my planner to be like, okay, it's okay, easy night. I'm doing a law enforcement class this afternoon, and by tonight I'll be on a wrestling mat teaching the amateur wrestling clinic. But that's how crazy my life was.
I'm sure.
At that point. It's still crazy now, but I mean, it's crazy in different realms. I mean, I still do a lot of seminars. Now it's kind of like working in, okay, when do I want to plan my next Danger Zone show? Okay, that's for mixed martial arts. And then I've got POG, Price of Glory, for my professional wrestling company. And that's, January's our next show coming on up. And now I actually have a group that wants to rent my gym and put on a professional wrestling training camp during that same weekend, and so it's like going on, can I make it all work? Well, sure, I can make it all work.
Now, it's once reported that guys in the locker room of WWE were legitimately scared of you. Tell us about that dynamic, because I know like your reputation, preceded you, but like just in us talking with you, I mean, you're very laid back, relaxed, but at the same time, I get the feeling that I definitely want to stay on your good side. So
well, it was comical for like the first few weeks. Every time that I encountered one of the other rostered wrestlers, they always greeted me with Mr. Severn. And yet, every time that I see them with anybody else, they'd be like, hey, Steve, hey, Taker. I mean, they either would call people by their first name or by their ring name. And this went on for a few weeks. I kept thinking, maybe they're just ripping me. No, I'll just go with the flow. And then it continued on, and I finally I have to stop one of the wrestlers. I go, why is it? And they'll explain. I go, you guys meet each other, and you say you might call each other by your first name, stuff like that. And the wrestler said, he's like, dude, he says, you're from the real world. He says, you scare us because we're afraid that if we do something wrong in a match, you're going to snap. And you're going to go into this UFC mode and start, just killing us out there for real. And to me, as I go on, I just laugh. I go, I'm here for all the same reasons you guys are here. I said, granted, I have a reputation from that. I go, and I'll play off of it. I said, but other than that, I said, to me, it's like, it's one of the things that I even learned from Al Snow that I regale to all of my wrestlers nowadays. Just the number one rule of professional wrestling is you take care of me and I will take care of you.
That's right.
I say that, but at the same token, I have been hurt far worse in my professional wrestling career than cage fighting or my amateur wrestling. Number two, I've been hurt worse, I've been hurt less in my amateur career. The safest thing, I should say, they hurt more. The safest thing I've ever done is cage fighting. What do you think about that? I've had, out of my 3 careers, cage fighting is my safest thing I've ever done. I mean, how many people can ever say that one?
The cage is safer.
Yeah.
I'll be sure to stop by
your matches don't have to last long. I mean, look at the Ronda Rousey. I mean, she made more money per second. She finished off more matches in that first minute or two. You know, Bar City.
Yeah. One of the lasting images I have of your professional wrestling career is you coming out with all of those belts. I'm a belt head. I'm a belt guy. I love belts. Do you still have any of them? If so, which ones? Which ones were your favorites? Talk to us about the belts that you used to come out with.
Well, I have, I think I have the world record right now, 21 belts, 21 championship belts. And I think only a couple of them were actually from the world. Well, I think really only one from professional world, and that is the NWA belt.
So now, the NWA you still have that one?
I have, yes.
Ooh, that's a beauty.
Now, again,
classic.
It's not the one that you see in all the pictures. I have a special one that was made and given to me by the NWA organization at the time for all the things that I did. It was after that, you know, my 4-year run. You know, I happened to be at the Cauliflower Alley banquet out in Vegas. I did not know this happened. Lou Thesz was the president of that. Now, I've had many encounters with Lou Thesz. I first met Lou when I was going over to Japan. And I've come to learn a great deal about him. As Ric Flair has claimed to be the man, Lou Thesz was the man, and he had a stranglehold on that NWA belt. I think at one point in time he held it for like a decade. And it was quite the champion, and he was the president, and he was the man who actually presented me with this NWA belt that I have now. So there's a great deal of what that means to me.
Prestige, and then, you know, going to UFC, you're basically the first and only, I guess you could call, grand champion of the UFC. Tell us about that. I mean, you're in the UFC Hall of Fame, Mixed Martial Arts Hall of Fame, and honestly, they should probably put you in the WWE Hall of Fame, because one of their biggest properties in Goldberg that they own was off-branch from you, and a lot of their guys now that they promote, like Brock Lesnar and stuff like that, also come from you. So tell us, just tell us about that dynamic. Do you ever sit back and just think of all the accomplishments that you've had thus far, and just, you know, sit back and smile on them?
Well, I mean, I told you, you know, just by having, I have just over 100 state, national, international titles on my records. I've got, I think, 21 championship belts. But if you came to my training facility, you're not going to see no belts on out. And the only stuff that you'll see set out are what other people put out. Otherwise, I would never have set any of the stuff out, because I've been kind of a closed book about that kind of stuff. I still, I mean, even now, I actually had one of my planners. I actually had two of my planners. I've got the vision up of 2017, and I already have my 2018 all with a number of dates I'm putting in, and the goals and stuff like that I'm setting for myself, for what I want to do with my training facility, for what I want to do with my MMA company, my professional company. I literally set goals, and I keep them, because there's sometimes I wonder, why am I doing all of this crazy stuff? And then I have to look at, okay, because of my goals, but then also I have a picture of my family. That's also a motivating type of aspect. Because I even plan on telling them what to do way beyond the time that I'm gone through a trust. My kids will never know what I'm worth until the reading of the will. And even then, I'll be telling them what to do with my money.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. How much longer are you going to be competing? How much is left in the tank? From the looks of it, you're not stopping anytime soon.
The reality is, I've been trying to get a match, one last hurrah there with the Ken Shamrock and Royce Gracie, and I really do believe that that's a dead-end issue on both ends. So I really look at, do I really want to go up against these young bucks? No. I mean, the hardest thing for any. Well, first off, I have no axe to grind with either one of them. Well, I don't have no axe to grind with any of these young bucks. I have an axe to grind with the two names that I mentioned. Mm-hmm. And so that's it would be marketable. Now, would the match live up to the hype? Oh, hell no. It'd be pathetic at best. Because you just got to look at you saw Ken and Royce in their last little fiasco and thinking, wow, they have not. Father Time has not been too kind to those two. And I say that ironically because I'm older than what they are.
I think that was the biggest hype when both you and Ken were signed to WWE. They always wanted you guys to do a program and do a quote-unquote fight number 3, which would have did it no justice. But just tell us the dynamic between you and Ken back then and now, because it seems like there's definitely no love lost.
There's no dynamics really to speak of. I mean, we've never really no really conversation between each other. I mean, when we were involved in the Ultimate Fighting Championships, I mean that was adversarial at best. So and then when he was in WWF almost a year before I was, we only had a very limited interaction with each other. And really no conversation really taking place. And I thought that we were going to have a match a little over 2 years ago. I thought it was going to take place. But, some things happened to where, I tend to bury Ken a little bit because I don't like to waste my time, and I wasted 5 months. He had always signed an LOI, a letter of intent. He already took a cash advancement on this LOI. And we had this match, and all of a sudden he makes this announcement that he's going to be doing a match against Royce Gracie on a Friday night. Because I can't remember the exact date, but all I can say is that here he is, he's doing one in Bellator on a Friday night, and he had already signed an LOI and took a cash advancement on that same weekend, Sunday. He was supposed to, and I'm thinking, how was Ken Shamrock going to do 2 matches in the same weekend? So I mean, there's a lot more to it than that. But just to me, it's like, I keep calling it it's the shim sham, the sham of Shamrock. So I just kind of go. That's where I don't take the guy at his word really whatsoever. Whatever, do a match with him, unless you got some kind of ironclad type of way. No, I'm not going to waste my time. Life for me is moving on, but the other things I'm doing. But I say that although I'm life is competition. So I'm on the mats, either teaching or rolling around with guys, probably 4 or 5 days a week. I enjoy the camaraderie, but at the same token, it's kind of like going. I'm on the downside of the other side of the mountain now. It's kind of like you have to learn to settle, and that's hard for a person to do. Is to learn to I once could do 505 on a squat rack. It was cool. You had to actually put collars on that bar because the bar is flexing over your shoulders, and the place would slide on off if you didn't have collars on them. So it was cool to see that. But now it's kind of going. Now I operate. No. It's a whole lot easier. It's a whole lot easier on the back. So that's the hard part about the aging athlete is learning to settle for less each and every year.
Now it seems like that. Although you're not waiting for it to happen, you do feel like there needs to be a third bout between you and Ken Shamrock, and then there also needs to be another bout between you and Royce Gracie.
I think I think there should be at least one more match between Ken and myself because that would be the rubber match. Now the match with Royce and I, that would only be match number 2. But if I go on, I guarantee you there will never be a match number 3 if I do match number 2 with Royce.
Do you feel that match number 2 with Royce? Do you think? I have a pretty high thought that you would win that match. Is it just something so you can avenge a loss?
A lot of people. What I don't like, guys, is this. I don't like the arrogance of Royce. I was at an event a few months back, and this was just him and I. And again, I couldn't even tell you. It was a cool event that was held in downtown Chicago. At basically it's like a men's club, but not like a strip club, but a men's club where they have a barbershop, pool table, bar, suits. It was really I had never seen something like this. I'm thinking that this was definitely a man's idea to put all these elements here because it was all on one floor that they had all these things. And there was an interviewing type segment. Between Royce and myself, we're both sitting up in these nice, tall, leatherback chairs, and we're there just being asked questions. And I just couldn't believe the arrogance that keeps coming out of his mouth. I mean, and I'll just say this. When our first match ended, we stood up and he embraced me. And he said to me, "You're the toughest man I have ever faced." I simply thanked him, but in my mind, I'm thinking, you haven't seen nothing yet. But I'm capable of doing it. And that's where, again, I've only, in a 20-year career, I've only done 2 training camps. Once for 32 days and once for 35. This match for Ken, I actually knew about 5 months in advance. I started doing stuff 5 months in advance. I was down to 236 pounds. I hadn't seen 236 pounds in the last, probably 2 decades. But I told myself, if this was going to be the last time people were ever going to see Dan Severn, they were going to see the best Dan Severn ever.
236.
So, will there ever be a match with Royce Gracie? No. I spoke to his manager for 45 minutes, and this guy danced around the issue like a politician. And finally, I cut him off. I go, let me just summarize it. The answer is no. Well, that's not what I said there, Dan. No, you danced around for 45 minutes to simply say all these different factors. Well, I said, I don't have time for all those different factors. I said, either Andy's up or he doesn't. If you can't take the message to him, put him on the phone there with me. But that's just me. I don't like to piss around with peons. When, if you don't like to deal with me, talk to me. I'll make the deal. I've had most of all my own stuff on my own. I don't think it's going to change anytime soon. I don't like people waste my time, and I feel like he's wasting my time, and so is Ken. And it's kind of like going, I'll move on, and we'll see who becomes the greater star in the after competition aspect. A lot of people don't realize, but okay, what was it? Okay, UFC was whose idea was the UFC? Art Davie was the brainchild of the Ultimate Fighting Championship. Art was a businessman. He did not know anything about athletics, but he did bump into or know of Royce Gracie. Royce Gracie is the eldest son, okay, and was teaching Gracie jiu-jitsu. So Royce Gracie was the matchmaker. He was the recruiter. What you got to realize, go back in time and look at those old VHS tapes that now been converted over to DVDs, and it show each time that Royce won something. It wasn't Royce Gracie won. It was Gracie Jiu-Jitsu beats Judo. Gracie Jiu-Jitsu beats Taekwondo. Gracie Jiu-Jitsu beats this. It was a marketing idea, and I'll take my hat off to him. It was a great idea because were all the matches legit? Sure they were. But at the same token, it was a controlled environment. Who was picking out the opponents to be involved in these tournaments, stuff like this? I'm the monkey wrench that hit the system. They did not, because I come across as a nice guy. I am a nice guy, but I'm a pretty serious competitor. That's the one thing they didn't look into. But then they thought they're safe because he's just a wrestler. But as long as I finished, like in UFC number 4, they sold the company right after UFC number 4 because, probably a number of different reasons, but by contract, they can't get rid of me because as long as I finish in the top 2, I come back. Well, I came back. I took out 32 days of my life, and I destroyed the field in short order. I think it was one of the quickest championships that was ever won. And the same thing would happen to Royce. I would turn him into a pile of kindling wood just because I will set the record straight once and for all. I don't care how old he is. I will always be older.
Wow. That right there, I don't know if you can see, Luis. I got goosebumps right there because I felt like I was roasted. He was talking.
He definitely
the one
does.
thing about me, a lot of people just can't handle the truth, and I'm one of those kind of guys that I will rub your face right in the truth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If you can't handle the truth, I go, that's me. I don't like to lie to people. First off, I got too much going on. If I tell the first lie, you have to tell another half a dozen to cover up the first lie. I got too much going on. I'm not that sharp. I'm gonna hurt your feelings, and we're gonna move ahead from there.
Oh,
that's the life I live by anymore.
We was about to wrap it, but we want to make sure that fans can know where to reach you at across social media and everything else.
Yeah, well, the best way is simply just going to my website at www.dansevern.com. And on there is all my social medias, how they can get contact. It will be over the course of the next probably 2 months to be revamped because I have a new group that's going to come on board. They want to take my website. Like you have had too great of a career, and you got too tame of a website. So they're going to jump on board through the website, but then also help it out on the social media because they're like, you should, well, just like you guys said earlier, you should be in the WWE Hall of Fame. There should be a movie about you because there is nobody else like you. And the fact is, you're still alive. You know, when you think about, okay, there's only 4 people in the world that have over 100 cage fights. I'm one of the 4. There's only 3 in the world that have over 100 victories. I'm one of the 3. But the ironic part is, I faced the other 3. I defeated the other 3. And the closest one to my age was 15 years my junior. So it puts me in a category all by myself. And I'm lifetime chemical free. Just think if I actually got on something. You know, steroids, I was approached by some companies that they will take care of all your financial stuff like this. All you need to do is train. But part of the deal, Dan, you got to get with our doctors. We want to get you, because your age, your testosterone probably go in the dumpster. We'll get you on this, and this. At your size and weight, we'll get you up to about 3 1/4. Ripped at about 6% body fat. We'll give you about 35 to 40% more power. I already possess to get the power. If I had 35 to 40% more power, I would have been pulling body parts off of people and beating them with the bloody stumps. But I can look at myself in the mirror and know I've achieved all my success.
You have.
Ability.
Yeah.
And the sad part is, I only did 2 training camps in a 20-year span, guys. That's the reality. I go, most of you guys would be ashamed that someone that was older than their father kicked their butt, and they didn't even train. You'll see some pretty unique showcases that will come to fruition in the course of 2018.
That's great. Can't wait. Thank you, FightBoothPW.com, FightBooth.com for MMA. I'm Luis Vasquez. Man. You can follow me on Twitter at Luis Vasquez617.
You can find me on Twitter. This is Jay Holland, man. You can find me across social media at JAYOCITY, unless it's on Facebook at that781 at the end.
And this was the special Dan Severn edition of the Unsanctioned podcast. We are now reaching the end. Hit the line, Jay.
You already know this is the Unsanctioned podcast. We are now being sanctioned over the airwaves. Let's get it.
Yes, sir. Money over here, money over here, yeah. Talk, gotta bring the city back. Let them know we still here, never gonna stop. Keep rolling like a wheelchair, can't be shook. You know the wolf smell fear, throw him in the trunk, turn your man to a straight spit. No tire, just money so fire. Can't stack it.